The restaurant was warm and filled with the chatter of families enjoying dinner, couples leaning close over candlelit tables, and the clinking of dishes being served. The smell of roasted chicken, garlic bread, and spices filled the air, making it a comfortable escape from the chilly night outside. Daniel sat in a booth near the window with his daughter Lily, a bright-eyed 7-year-old who loved to chatter about school, her favorite books, and her dreams of becoming an artist. Daniel was in his mid-30s, tall but unassuming, with tired eyes that told a story of years spent working hard to raise his little girl alone. He wasn't a man who sought attention, nor did he ever imagine that one night could change the course of his life. He thought he was just taking Lily out for a special dinner because she had worked hard all week at school. But life had other plans. Across the restaurant, a woman walked in quietly and chose a seat near the corner. Her name was Emily. She looked to be in her late 20s, wearing a simple coat and scarf, her hair tucked behind her ears as she clutched a small handbag. There was a sadness in her eyes, the kind of sadness that comes from carrying burdens no one else sees. She sat alone, ordered only a glass of water, and stared at the table as if lost in her thoughts. Daniel noticed her only because Lily whispered, "Daddy, that lady looks so sad. Why is she sitting all alone?" Daniel gave his daughter a soft smile and reminded her not to stare, but even he felt a pull of concern for the stranger who seemed weighed down by life. Moments later, the atmosphere in the restaurant shifted. Two men walked in, loud, rough, and clearly already under the influence of alcohol. Their presence made a few people glance away uncomfortably, but no one said anything. They scanned the room until their eyes landed on Emily sitting by herself. They exchanged grins that carried nothing but trouble and without hesitation walked over to her table. Emily tried to ignore them, but one of the men leaned in close, his voice dripping with mockery. "What's a pretty girl like you doing all alone, huh? Don't you want some company?" His friend laughed and blocked her way out of the booth. Emily's voice trembled as she told them to leave her alone, but they ignored her. Other diners looked down at their food, pretending not to see. It was the kind of uncomfortable scene where everyone knows something is wrong but no one wants to get involved. Lily tugged on her father's sleeve, her big brown eyes wide with fear. "Daddy, they're being mean to her. Please help." Daniel felt his chest tighten. He had promised himself he would always show his daughter the importance of doing the right thing, no matter how hard it was. He glanced at Emily, who looked like she was on the verge of tears, and then back at Lily, whose little face carried pure trust in him. He knew he couldn't stay seated. He had to do something. Daniel stood up and walked calmly but firmly toward the corner table. His voice was steady when he spoke. "She asked you to leave her alone. It's time to go." The men turned and laughed. "And who are you supposed to be?" "Her knight in shining armor," one sneered. The other shoved Daniel slightly, testing him. But Daniel didn't back down. "I'm someone who won't let you hurt her," he said quietly but firmly. "So either you leave her alone, or you'll regret staying." The men weren't used to being challenged. One of them lunged at Daniel, throwing a punch. Daniel dodged it, grabbed the man's wrist, and twisted just enough to make him stumble backward. The second man tried to attack from the side, but Daniel blocked him with his shoulder, pushing him off balance. Chairs toppled over, and people gasped as glasses shattered. Lily stood frozen at their booth, her small hands covering her mouth, terrified for her father. The fight was messy, not like in the movies. Daniel wasn't a trained fighter, but he was a father fueled by determination and the need to protect. He managed to push one man down to the ground, holding him there with the strength of desperation, while glaring at the other. "This ends now," Daniel said, his voice sharp with authority. The attackers cursed under their breath, but they realized the room was watching. People had pulled out their phones, the staff had called for security, and shame washed over the men's faces. With one last angry look, they stumbled out of the restaurant, muttering threats but defeated. Emily sat frozen in her seat, trembling. Daniel turned to her, his breathing heavy but his voice gentle. "Are you okay?" he asked. Her lips quivered as she whispered, "Thank you. I was so scared. I didn't know what to do." Daniel extended his hand to her, not as a rescuer but simply as a person who understood what it meant to feel alone. "You're safe now." Lily ran to her father's side, hugging his waist tightly. "Daddy, you're a hero," she said with childlike pride, her voice breaking the heavy silence in the restaurant. A few people clapped, and slowly the room returned to its usual hum. But the story didn't end there. Daniel offered to walk Emily home to make sure she was safe. She hesitated at first but finally agreed. On the way, they talked. Emily opened up about her struggles, how she had moved to the city for work, how things hadn't gone the way she hoped, and how lonely and unsafe she often felt. She admitted she had been dealing with harassment before, and that night had almost broken her spirit. Daniel shared his own story. He told her about losing his wife years ago, about the sleepless nights raising Lily alone, about the constant battle to balance work, bills, and fatherhood. He admitted that some nights he lay awake, wondering if he was enough for his daughter. By the time they reached Emily's apartment, a bond had begun to form. Two broken souls had found comfort in each other's honesty. In the weeks that followed, Emily and Daniel's paths kept crossing. She began joining Daniel and Lily for meals, sometimes cooking for them, sometimes just sitting at their table to share laughter. For Lily, who had grown up with only one parent, Emily became a gentle presence who listened to her stories and encouraged her drawings. For Daniel, Emily became a reminder that life could hold unexpected blessings even after so much loss. Still, challenges remained. Emily struggled with fear, worried that opening her heart again would only lead to more pain. Daniel worried about what people would think, and whether bringing someone new into Lily's life was fair. He wrestled with guilt, feeling like he was betraying the memory of his late wife by letting someone else into his heart. But slowly, through trust, patience, and countless small moments, they built something real. Emily helped Lily with school projects, and Daniel encouraged Emily when she doubted herself at work. They weren't perfect, but they didn't need to be. They were human, and that was enough. Months later, they found themselves back in the same restaurant where it all began. This time, they sat together at a booth, Lily coloring on a napkin while Daniel and Emily shared a quiet smile. Emily reached for Daniel's hand and said softly, "That night, you didn't just protect me from those men. You reminded me that kindness and courage still exist. You gave me hope when I had none." Daniel squeezed her hand and replied, "And you reminded me that life doesn't end with loss. Sometimes it begins again when you least expect it." From that night on, their story spread quietly through the neighborhood. People talked about the single dad who stood up against two attackers, not because he wanted recognition, but because he believed in doing what was right. And in a world where too many people look away, Daniel proved that one act of courage can change more than one life, it can build a future. And so, this story is not just about a fight in a restaurant. It is about love, resilience, and the way kindness has the power to heal broken hearts. Daniel didn't see himself as a hero, but to Emily and Lily, he was proof that good men still exist, and that standing up for others can lead to the most unexpected blessings. Speech balloon. What about you? If you were in Daniel's place, would you have stepped in to protect Emily? Share your thoughts in the comments, I'd love to hear your perspective. Thumbs up if this story touched your heart, make sure to like this video. Bell. Don't forget to subscribe to Kindness Wins for more powerful and emotional stories that remind us of the good in humanity. Because in the end, no matter how dark the world seems, kindness always wins.